Welcome to our new episode of Speak Revenue. Remember, revenue is not a goal, it's a result. But a result of what? In this show, we turn our eyes from the output towards the inputs. We speak to sales leaders and entrepreneurs about their journeys. Join us on our quest to uncover and learn the root causes of success. Let's unpack what worked for them and what didn't. Today, with our guest, Charlie Whyman. Welcome, Charlie. Thanks for joining the show. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So let us know, let the audience know. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you so successful?
Who am I? My name is Charlie Whyman. I've been in business for just over 6 years now. And I speak on commercial curiosity. So my business is about speaking at events, running workshops, and sort of coaching and mentoring people. The whole goal around commercial curiosity is to help businesses get more sales from their marketing efforts, but focusing on profitable sales rather than just revenue. So it's really interesting to be here.
Commercial curiosity, exciting topic. What are you focusing on regarding the buyer journey? Is it rather marketing, sales, or customer success?
It bridges all three of those disciplines, to be honest, because I've developed a commercial operating system over the years that basically links together marketing, sales, and customer service, so that it means that every activity that the business does from a commercial standpoint drives other results throughout the business, so that there's no kind of like gaps or there's no drop-off points, and then all activity is contributing to something bigger and for the wider goal of the company. It's probably worth noting I studied engineering, so I accidentally fell into a marketing role, having set up a business years ago. And for me, sales and marketing is a problem to be solved. So I've just always been on this like really curious path to figure out, why do businesses have so many problems from a sales and marketing standpoint, and what can we do to solve that, make it easier, and look at it from a bigger picture.
Awesome. It's really impressive that you've developed your own operating system. I'd like to talk about that in a minute, but maybe I'd like to understand first, what do you understand under commercial curiosity exactly?
So commercial curiosity is just all about asking really good questions to look at what's really going on here, rather than just looking at surface level problems and surface level solutions. A lot of people in commercial roles are under a significant amount of pressure to perform, to succeed, and to drive revenue in the business, and don't always give problems enough time to really understand what's going on, so that the solution that's implemented or being invested in can actually drive real results for the business. So it's all about asking questions.
That's really interesting. So sometimes it's not enough time to really care about those things. Is it also a question of personality or character? How do you handle if people are just not used to ask the right questions and be curious enough about their clients?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that as children, we're naturally curious.
Yeah.
But at some point in our development, we're told to stop asking questions, or we lose that natural curiosity and it becomes a lot harder. Whereas when I was at school, I was the disruptive kid in class because I asked too many questions. And I was always trying to figure out why we were doing what we were doing. Like, why were we learning the things that we were being taught? And for me, I couldn't understand why so much time and emphasis was being put on teaching us things that, for me, I didn't understand the point of. And if I knew why we were learning those things, I would have put a lot more effort into learning those things. And for me, it's a missing piece of the puzzle with a lot of businesses, is that if team members and employees aren't curious, it's because they're so used to being told what to do, or they're not given the freedom or the autonomy, or they're not trusted enough to ask questions.
That's really interesting. Reminds me on the topic of emotional intelligence as well. Yeah. So it consists of different subtopics, but that's something over the years get distracted or get used to some behaviors and forget about emotional intelligence eventually.
I work with, not exclusively, but I work with a lot of engineers,
Yeah.
scientists, and techie
Mhm.
people. I think because I studied engineering, I understand these
Yeah.
types of people really well. I am one of these people. And I think there's a misconception that we're all given this natural ability to empathize with others, when the reality is that we're not all capable of empathizing with others. But what we are capable of doing is asking questions and exploring and seeking to understand something from somebody else's point of view. And in commercial roles, that's what it's all about. The more successful you are in a commercial role is all to do with your ability to ask questions and understand where your customers are in that buyer journey, understand what your customers' problems and challenges are, and how that fits into the context of where they want to go. So, what their goals and aspirations are.
Right.
So, for me, you can teach empathy. There
Mhm.
are actually 3 different types of empathy. You can teach empathy, but those emotional skills are what differentiates us from robots and AI tools. And we could go down a big rabbit hole talking about that. But in a commercial role, for me, the more we can empathize, the more we can ask questions, and the higher our drive to understand our customers, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah, I still see the opposite in many cases at many companies, but not sure if there's a shift already to be more curious and to focus on the right questions. Why do you think it seems to be so clear, but why do you think the approach is really still very different in several cases?
I think some businesses have gotten away with it for a period of
Mhm.
time, so they haven't needed to be more curious. What they're selling in the way that they're selling
Okay.
it has
Yeah.
worked for X amount of time. So it's that rule: if it's not broken, why fix it? But then there's an argument to say, how protected are they for the
Yeah.
future if they're not being curious and understanding, what are the customers driven by? What are they interested in? What are they looking at for the future? Is that company going to be present for much longer? Or is it going to just be another news story like the Kodaks and the Blockbusters of the world? I think we can never rely on current success
Yeah.
for the future. I think if we're not curious as to how we can grow, how we can develop, and how we can better serve our customers, then I wonder how much of a future that business has, or those businesses have.
Yeah, right. They can be really dangerous if you feel too comfortable because business is
Yeah.
running maybe for years or decades. But if it makes you so comfortable that you're not even really interested in what drives your clients, why they really work with you, can be pitfall. Yeah, very interesting. Let's elaborate a bit on your operating model. How does it look like? Maybe starting from marketing, going through, or from marketing, so going through sales to upsell.
So it's a very
Hmm.
simple, it's a very, very simple model. And
I
I
like
think
that.
that's the beauty of it. Because I think I accidentally fell into a marketing role. What I found was that whenever I spoke to marketers, experts in marketing strategy, consultants, agencies, they overcomplicated
Okay.
things. And I found it quite ironic because, having come from an engineering background and worked for engineering businesses, it's like they were telling us that we were being too complicated in our
Yeah.
marketing, whilst also coming across as very complicated themselves. So again, I'm so curious to understand why we do the things that we're doing. I started to put together my own operating system. And also, because of working with engineering and scientific businesses, the managing director, the CFO, the operating officer, the technical director, these types of people don't care about marketing. They don't
Yeah.
understand it. So if you start to talk to them in marketing speak, you've lost them. They're not
Right.
interested. So you have to find a way to communicate in their language so that they understand why you're doing what you're doing and how that fits into the bigger picture of the business. So this commercial operating system essentially fits on one page, and it starts at the top with, what are your marketing channels? Are you using networking? Are you using events and trade shows?
Okay.
Are you using speaking? Are you using PR? What are those channels? And it's really good because you can score them out of 10. And I like to do this without the data. So it's a bit of a controversial take on it. But just as a sort of gut feel, how do you feel like each of those marketing channels are performing? Are they an 8 out of 10, or maybe they're a 3 out of 10? How bought in is everybody into the success of one of those channels? And then you take it a level down and start looking at, okay, we're using these marketing channels to generate curiosity in our market, to build that audience. Yes. But we want to turn that curiosity into action, and that action is a lead or an inquiry. So how are we as a business generating those leads and inquiries? Are we offering a lead magnet? Are we asking people to ring us? Are we asking people to fill out a form on our website? And again, how well are those different actions performing? And I worked with a business years ago, and they were like, we're just not getting any website leads. I mean, there were lots of other problems with their marketing, but they were fixated on the fact that they weren't getting any website leads.
Okay.
So I said to them, when was the last time you tested the form on your website? Because it didn't work. It wasn't a case that people were probably trying to contact them on their website, but it wasn't possible because it didn't work. It's little things like that just prompt you to think, okay, if it's not working, is it a technical problem, or is there something bigger going on here? So once you've generated the action from the curiosity, you've generated your lead. In an ideal world, all leads would turn into sales, but let's face it, that's not the reality. So we've got, then it splits into two. So we've got the leads that turn into sales inquiries, and then you've got the leads that are not yet ready to buy. So for those leads that are not yet ready to buy, what's that process? How are we going to keep that curiosity alive? And what are we doing to then feed those leads back through to sales at some point? Could be an email newsletter. It could be a sequence of emails nurturing somebody along a specific journey. It could be a series of webinars. Like there's lots of different ways that you can do that. But if you map out that process, it just shows you where you're sending people so that every action has a next step planned. Yes. And then from the sales side of things, then you have your sales process. And again, the beauty of this is that you can look and see, okay, are you having a sales discovery call on the phone? Is that then leading to a proposal? Do you then need to have another sales call to close the deal, handle objections, do whatever? What's the negotiation process? What's the invoicing process? What do you do with those leads that drop off at any point during that stage? Then once you've got that customer, again, it doesn't stop then. Once you've got that customer, where are you sending them then? Do those customers know what else you can help them with? Are you nurturing those customers? And do you have a process to keep in touch with them? Ask them what their challenges are, ask them what they need to keep that conversation going. When you map it out into a very simple system like that, you can basically give a red, amber, green measure for each of the stages of that process. You might find you've got a few stages missing because you're early stage, you don't have the resources for whatever reason, but that's okay, because then at least you know that you've got those stages missing and you can plan in adding them in at some stage. And I always recommend looking at things every 12 weeks, because then you understand what's working well, what's not working well, what are the learnings. And then also it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, this 12-week period, we're going to focus on this part of the process and we're going to make it better. The next 12 weeks, we're then going to focus on this part of the process. And one of the reasons why this system is so important is I used to work as a CMO for a company in the commercial shipping industry. And I was originally brought in to launch a telemedicine system, which was, commercial ships didn't know about telemedicine at the time. It was so new. It was very much an MVP model. And the goal was to generate leads and get some free demos sorted so we can get some case studies, we can prove that the product worked and that it was saving lives.
Sounds challenging.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy task. However, we generated 200 leads from the marketing efforts that we did. We'd invested money in this marketing, but the sales team weren't able to close one free demo. So it's just by looking at this process, I can then have the conversation with the sales director to say, I'm not investing any more money into this until you can give me feedback from customers as to why they are not going ahead with a free demo or why those leads are not converting, because those leads met the exact criteria that you'd given me in terms of ideal customer profile.
Sounds on a process level, it's really important to define clear entry and exit criteria per process step.
Yes. And it's, again, as an engineer, for me, I love it because it's logical. You can fit it on one page. It's easy to explain. You can show it to somebody else, and it doesn't take you hours to explain. It's quick and easy to understand. There's a resistance from some people that would probably say they're more creative than logical.
Okay.
And there's a discussion about that separately, because engineers typically are very creative, but just in a different sort of discipline. But where I believe is that actually, if you have the systems and processes to take care of the day-to-day stuff, the mundane stuff, the things that need to happen in order to keep things ticking along, it then actually frees up your mind to be more creative and to give you the time and the mental energy to think of new ideas and think of new campaigns and other things, so that you're not like wasting energy thinking about the things that you do on a daily basis or things that you do all the time.
Yeah, it takes some time. It's even possible creativity can be achieved by anyone, actually. The question how you structure it. I think it's not really, maybe some people are more creative than other people, but I think anyone can be creative to some extent. But you need maybe also in this case, a quick, small framework for it. If you haven't done it.
Putting together a framework is a creative exercise. You've got to think of the steps and you've got to put something together. But I think there's a misconception that creativity is to do with the arts, drawing, painting, music, dance, things like that. Because I think I went through the first 30 something years of my life believing I wasn't creative. When actually I'm very creative. I'm just not like musically gifted, or I'm just not like a dancer or a painter or an artist, but I can come up with some really creative campaign ideas. I can create intricate systems, processes, things like that, and I can solve problems.
Yeah, nice. I think in some cases creativity might be confused with chaotic work or chaos, but it's different. So you've talked about complexity. Do you regularly see companies adding too much complexity to processes at a too early company stage?
Not really. I find that systems like this seem to be adopted too late. But I think as well, one of the challenges for early stage companies and startups is that they don't have the money to invest in strategic marketing talent, because what they need is somebody to be on the ground implementing and doing that. But you rarely find people that have the skills, the years of experience, and the strategic capability to think about how everything fits together, to think about the systems, the processes. They just don't have access to that capability early on. So it's just a case of firefighting, throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, and just working at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Whereas I would argue that you can, it's like I used to do a lot of fractional CMO work where I would then go in and help them with that system and that process and mentor the marketing manager and help them with it. But I think it's that like early stage businesses and startups build these systems to start with, but keep them simple. I think that's the point. Keep them simple, because then you can be agile. You can start swapping and changing things. But it's only when you actually have a look and, well, I tried that, it didn't work, but why didn't it work? Use that learning into the next thing that you do, rather than just going, oh, it didn't work, it must be the channel, like the LinkedIn algorithm's broken, or that event was the wrong event. I think a lot of people are really afraid of asking themselves the hard questions around, is there something I could have done differently to have changed the outcome of that event or that campaign or that situation?
I think it really makes sense to take on a process level as early as possible, because if you are too late, maybe you have already scaled failure. So you need to make sure as the company grows and scale up business, you don't scale bad processes. They need to be developed, and you need to be aware of them.
Exactly. And I think it's that bad, if you put bad data into a system, you're going to get bad data out of that system.
Right.
So that extra care and attention that you can put at the start of the process just means that you can be more resourceful, you can leverage your assets more, so you can achieve more with less. And again, I think it's that I've worked with businesses that have spent significant amounts of money on marketing and it's not resulted in anything, because they've gone into it too quickly, or they've let it run for too long without asking those important questions, or they've kept it at surface level questions, or in some cases as well, especially if the business doesn't have marketing expertise within it, it doesn't challenge agencies and external people that are helping them with the marketing. I remember when I was at the start of my career, I was afraid of looking stupid because I wasn't an expert in marketing, but my gut instincts were telling me this isn't right.
Yeah.
Like there's something wrong here. But it didn't take me long to challenge the assumption and to ask stupid questions. But I remember that feeling to start with. And I was like, I'm not an expert here. What do I know? I can't ask them. And I find that a lot of businesses that I've worked with over the years, there's this fear of asking for help, or there's this fear of challenging or asking questions because you don't have that expertise.
Yeah. It's not necessary.
For me, it's just...
A quote comes in mind. I think it's from Alex Hormozy. Not sure if you know him, but the quote is, if you're afraid, actually, you are not afraid. You are afraid of what people think of you or might think of you.
Yes. Also, to take it a step up as well, I think there's I have processes and systems for everything. So I have a system, it's like a self-coaching system. It's called Clear the Air. And it's when things don't work or if you need to get unstuck, you need to clear the air. So it's to ask yourself, what are you avoiding? What are you ignoring? And what are you reacting to? And usually when you start to explore those three, you avoid things because of a fear around how you appear both to yourself or how you appear to others. You ignore things like market intelligence or signs and signals from your audience or positive affirmations and things like that because of a identity challenge or your belief system is in question.
Yeah, okay.
And then the reacting to is you usually reacting to things rather than being proactive and responding to things because you don't have a proper plan or you don't believe in the plan that you've got.
Oh, that sounds...
And it's only when we understand those fears that we can actually move forwards with stuff.
Sounds like we should record another episode on this topic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I did a keynote talk at a marketing event in April because they'd asked me to come and do one of the talks I normally deliver about getting more sales from your marketing efforts. And I asked them if I could do something different because what happens at a lot of conferences is that people write copious amounts of notes. They go away feeling inspired, feeling motivated, but then that fizzles out and that more often than not, they know what they need to do before they've even come to that conference. So the real question, the real problem is, why are they not doing the things they know they need to do? Why are we, and I put myself in this as well, why are we always seeking more education, more coaching, more insight, more expertise when we know what we need to do?
Such an awesome topic. I think that leads me perfectly to my last question. Maybe having a look back at 5 years younger Charlie, what would you say is a lesson learned you would the audience like to know?
Focus on what you want to do, what you believe is the right thing to do, and do not let anybody else influence what you're doing because everybody has their own way of doing things. And if you don't agree with it, that's okay.
Nice. I think we definitely should do a next episode on exactly this topic. But for now, we are at the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Charlie Whyman, for joining us today and sharing such valuable insights. Huge shout out to all our listeners. Your support means the world to us. Remember to check out our website at speakrevenue.com for full transcript and additional resources. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you go for your listening needs. It really helps get the word out. Also, follow us on LinkedIn and Insta or on YouTube. We'll be back soon with another great guest. Until then, stay curious and keep listening.